In the early 20th century, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there stood a community unlike any other in America. A community built by African Americans for African Americans. A place of wealth, culture, and pride. It came to be known as Black Wall Street. But in 1921, that community was violently destroyed in one of the deadliest racial massacres in American history. For decades, the story was hidden, silenced, and almost erased. Today, we uncover the history of Greenwood, the rise of Black Wall Street, and the tragedy that followed. The Greenwood district began around 1906 when a wealthy black landowner, Gully, purchased 40 acres of land in Tulsa. He made a deliberate decision. He would sell this land only to black settlers. At the time, Tulsa was a segregated city. The railroad tracks divided white Tulsa from black Tulsa. North of these tracks, Greenwood was born. Word spread quickly. Black families, many fleeing racial violence in the South, migrated to Oklahoma in search of opportunity. Greenwood offered safety, dignity, and the chance to build a future. Soon, the district grew into one of the most prosperous black communities in the United States. By the 1910s, Greenwood was thriving. It boasted over 600 businesses, including grocery stores, barber shops, theaters, and restaurants. The district had its own schools, a hospital, a bank, and even its own newspaper, the Tulsa Star. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, and entrepreneurs all found a home in Greenwood because segregation limited where black people could spend their money. The wealth of the community circulated within Greenwood itself, multiplying its strength. The district's success earned it the nickname Black Wall Street. It symbolized black economic independence in an era when most African Americans were denied even basic rights. Yet, Greenwood's success did not exist in isolation. Tulsa in the early 20th century was a city of deep racial division. The Ku Klux Klan was active, and resentment among poor white citizens grew as they watched a black community prosper while they struggled. This tension was a powder keg. It only needed a spark. That spark came on May 30th, 1921. On that day, a young black shoe shiner named Dick Rowland entered an elevator in the Dexterel building, operated by a young white woman named Sarah Page. What happened next remains uncertain. Some believe Rowland tripped and accidentally touched her arm. Others suggest she screamed out of surprise. Regardless of the truth, rumors spread quickly. By the next day, local newspapers published inflammatory headlines accusing Rowland of attempting assault. The call for lynching was immediate. Rowland was arrested and held at the courthouse. A white mob gathered outside demanding his execution. In response, a group of black men, many of them World War I veterans, went to the courthouse to protect him from being lynched. Confrontations broke out. At some point, a gunshot rang. That single gunshot unleashed chaos that would devastate Greenwood. On the 9th of May 31st and into the morning of June 1st, 1921, white mobs descended upon Greenwood. They looted homes and businesses, setting fire to buildings block by block. Reports confirmed that airplanes were used to drop devices, making the Tulsa Race Massacre the first time in American history that aerial attacks were launched against civilians on U.S. soil. By the end, more than 35 city blocks had been destroyed. Over 1,200 homes were burned. Churches, schools, and businesses were reduced to ash. The official death toll was listed as around 36, but survivors and historians estimate that as many as 300 black men, women, and children were killed. Many of their bodies were buried in unmarked mass graves, their final resting places still being uncovered today. When the smoke cleared, Greenwood laid in ruins. Survivors were rounded up and held in internment camps. Many were forced to carry identification tags before they were allowed to leave. Insurance companies refused to pay claims, labeling the destruction a riot instead of a massacre. No white person was ever held accountable for the devastation. Despite the loss, survivors began the painful work of rebuilding. Against overwhelming odds, Greenwood regained some of its prosperities in the years that followed, but it never fully recovered. For decades, the massacre was left out of textbooks, newspapers, and official records. A generation of Americans grew up never knowing it happened. Today, the Greenwood district is remembered as both a symbol of black achievement and a reminder of racial violence in America. The story of Black Wall Street is not only about destruction, it is also about resilience. The people of Greenwood built prosperity in the face of systemic racism, only to see it taken by force. Yet, even in the ashes, they refused to be erased. Acknowledging this history is essential. The Tulsa Race Massacre reveals not only what was lost, but also the extraordinary accomplishments of a community that dared to dream of independence. Black Wall Street's legacy continues to inspire effort for justice, reparations, and the rebuilding of black economic power in America. It is a history too important to be forgotten. This has been the story of Black Wall Street, its rise, its destruction, and its enduring legacy. A history of triumph, tragedy, and resilience, still echoing more than a century later.